I live in a parallel universe where I only have one responsibility. Written by Not a Throwaway 128. We all have questions about the afterlife, and I was no exception. Not being very religious growing up, I struggled to decide what I believed in. After I died, that changed. I was 24 when it happened, beginning what was supposed to be a successful career. I had been walking home after a long day, and while crossing the street, I was hit by a powerful force. I turned my head and saw someone staring back at me from behind the wheel of a semi-truck. As I fell backwards, I watched the driver's eyes fill with remorse and listened to the screams of shocked bystanders. Only when my head hit the ground and I began to fade out of consciousness did I realize that I might not wake up again. I was gone far before the ambulance arrived, so there was nothing that could be done to save me. That's not why I'm writing this though. I'm writing this to describe what happened after I woke up. Expecting to be in a hospital room, I was surprised to find myself back in my own bed. I glanced at the clock. 9:45. I laid there for a minute, wondering how much sleep I had gotten before I remembered everything. The truck, the screams, the driver, it all came rushing back. I became even more confused as to why I was in my bed. After getting dressed, I headed to the bathroom to brush my teeth. I glanced at the mirror, and there was nobody staring back at me. I looked again and confirmed that the only thing in the mirror was an empty room. Thinking I was just not seeing correctly, I hurriedly got ready for work and left. Only after seeing an empty driveway where my car should be did I realize that something was wrong. I noticed someone walking on the sidewalk nearby, so I described my car to them and asked if they had seen it. "Oh, you must be new here," the stranger replied. "I guess I should give you a bit of information. Things are basically the same as they used to be for you, except there is no need to work. Also, there's just one rule for you to follow. Always behave when you're at the mirror. Have a good day." What do you mean by used to be? I responded. And where am I? He didn't listen though. The stranger simply continued walking as if I had not said a word. I wondered what had happened to me and where I was. And most of my questions were answered when a dog sprinted out of my front door, which I had left open. Huh? That kind of looks like Cody, I thought to myself before realizing that it actually was him. He circled around me before jumping up to try to lick my face. And then I knew I had been reunited with the dog that I had owned for 9 years. It was hard to process at first, but I soon grew accustomed to being in the afterlife. The man I had spoken to on my first day was right. It really was similar to my previous life. I started meeting some people and formed a group of friends. Something I noticed quite quickly is that nobody aged. Not even Cody had gotten any older than the day I entered this world. Everything was fine, except for the mirrors. The first time it happened, I was petrified, but managed to survive. The thing is, there's a reason we don't have to work in the afterlife. It's because there's already important stuff to do. Around 3 days after my arrival, I was enjoying some time outside when suddenly I was standing in front of my bathroom mirror. On the other side was a much younger version of me. I don't know how, but a voice told me that I was to mimic the child's movements. He, who I would later find out was a reincarnation of me, was moving in slow motion, so it was not too hard to copy his movements. I did so, and eventually he walked away from the mirror, and I was back outside. I questioned one of my friends about it and got an explanation.
That's the only responsibility you'll have here. If you don't copy the movements of the other person correctly, then there will be consequences. Whenever they are in front of a mirror, you will be moved there. If you fail to copy the movements correctly, they may notice it and begin to question things. That's why God has a rule in place. If you mess up, then 10 days later you will have to watch them die a horrible death before starting over with the new reincarnation. It's a lot to take in, but you get used to it.
My friend told me. Yesterday I messed up. Real world me had been making rapidly changing expressions at the mirror, probably trying to see if his reflection would respond correctly. I messed up on one of them, smiling just a second too late. He didn't seem to notice, but I had broken the rule, and now he has to pay for it. He has 9 days left to live now, and I can't handle having to see myself die. I'm beginning to think that the reason people die is because their reflection makes a mistake. I may be wrong, but from what I've seen, it is true. I don't know if anyone will be able to see this, but if you do, then take this as a warning. If your reflection is ever a little bit off, then you just might have 10 days left.